Charles Darwin, born in 1809, was an English naturalist renowned for his theory of evolution by natural selection, a curious adventurer who loved exploring nature. He traveled the world aboard the HMS Beagle, observing different plants and animals. Darwin was fascinated by how species change over time, leading him to develop the theory of evolution by natural selection. His book, On the Origin of Species, explained how life evolves through a process of adaptation. Despite facing doubts, Darwin's ideas reshaped our understanding of life on Earth. He was a dedicated scientist, thinker, and advocate for understanding our place in the natural world. Darwin's legacy continues to inspire curiosity and discovery today. He died in 1882, leaving an enduring legacy as one of the most influential thinkers in history. Explore Darwin's insightful quotes on evolution and nature's wonders in this captivating YouTube video. A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. In the long history of humankind, and animal kind, too, those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. The love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. A man's friendships are one of the best measures of his worth. It is always advisable to perceive clearly our ignorance. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. An American monkey, after getting drunk on brandy, would never touch it again, and thus is much wiser than most men. The highest possible stage in moral culture is when we recognize that we ought to control our thoughts. It is not the conscience which raises a blush, for a man may sincerely regret some slight fault committed in solitude, or he may suffer the deepest remorse for an undetected crime, but he will not blush, unless he thinks that others are blaming him. The love of power is high, selfish, and often cruel. To kill an error is as good a service as, and sometimes even better than, the establishing of a new truth or fact. Man with all his noble qualities, with loving kindness and sympathy, is capable of reverencing an inanimate object. We stopped looking for monsters under our bed, when we realized that they were inside us. If any man wants to gain a good opinion of his fellow men, he ought to do what I am doing, pester them with letters. The power to charm the female has sometimes been more important than the power to conquer other males in battle. Our descent, then, is the origin of our evil passions. The devil under form of baboon is our grandfather. Intelligence is based on how efficient a species became at doing the things they need to survive. We must, however, acknowledge, as it seems to me, that man with all his noble qualities still bears in his bodily frame the indelible stamp of his lowly origin. One general law, leading to the advancement of all organic beings, namely, multiply, vary, let the strongest live and the weakest die. Freedom of thought is best promoted by the gradual illumination of men's minds, which follows from the advance of science. I am convinced that natural selection has been the main, but not exclusive means of modification. If everyone was cast in the same mold, there would be no such thing as beauty. We are always slow in admitting any great change of which we do not see the intermediate steps. It is impossible to conceive of this immense and wonderful universe as the result of blind chance or necessity. If I had my life to live over again, I would have made a rule to read some poetry, and listen to some music at least once every week. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change, that lives within the means available and works cooperatively against common threats. It is those who know little, and not those who know much, who so positively assert that this or that problem will never be solved by science. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. A moral being is one who is capable of reflecting on his past actions, and their motives of approving of some and disapproving of others. The mystery of the beginning of all things is insoluble by us, and I for one must be content to remain an agnostic. We can allow satellites, planets, suns, universe, nay whole systems of universe, to be governed by laws, but the smallest insect, we wish to be created at once by special act. A fair result can be obtained only by fully stating and balancing the facts, and arguments on both sides of each question. The loss of these tastes, for poetry and music, is a loss of happiness, and may possibly be injurious to the intellect, and more probably to the moral character, by enfeebling the emotional part of our nature. How paramount the future is to the present, when one is surrounded by children. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.